Regardless of the type of vehicle you have, or whether or not you have the checklist of all the pantry ingredients and all the pieces of equipment, the thing that I promise you have is a sense of intuition that can guide you in the kitchen, and it's more valuable than anything else you might have in your pantry, in your RV, in your kitchen at home. And the way that we can listen to that intuition and guide it towards eating better, more delicious food is by using the 6 flavors. All of our bodies perceive 6 flavors in all of our foods. It's something that ancient cultures have recognized, and something that in my own work in sports nutrition and fueling athletes and myself that I find to be critical for building delicious food and also nourishing my body whole. There are 6 flavors that our bodies perceive: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, astringent, and pungent. And each of them has a distinct purpose in our bodies, a distinct reason that they're important for us to incorporate them into our meals. So let's start with sweet. Sweet flavors help our bodies to build and bolster. They help us to hydrate, and they also help to soothe our senses. So if we've had a really rough day in the backcountry or a really tough road trip from wherever our starting point was to our campsite, eating something sweet will help us calm our nerves and settle our systems. We typically think about sweet foods as being something sugary like cookies or cake or candy, but there are a lot of foods that taste sweet that serve our bodies in this way. Oats are a great example of a sweet flavor. Grains like rice and quinoa, coconut milk is sweet, honey and maple syrup are sweet, but also vegetables like beets and carrots and even avocados are sweet. Salty flavors are also critical for us, whether we're playing really hard outside and sweating a lot or just for our digestion in general. Some examples of salty foods are, yes, potato chips and French fries, but also things like plain old sea salt. The liquid aminos that I use as a flavor agent is a great way to add sodium to your meals. Nori seaweed and even miso, or these little canned mussels that we're going to weave into a pasta later in this course, are all great salty foods. And salty foods are important for our bodies because they help us to digest. They also help us to taste our foods more completely, so our digestive system knows which enzymes to release so that we can break everything down. And of course, if we're active outside, whether we're riding or hiking or paddling, we have to replace electrolytes lost in sweat, and salt is the electrolyte that helps us to replenish. The next flavor that our bodies perceive is sour. And sour flavors are really important to help our tissues to kind of like tighten up and also to aid in our digestion. We need sour flavors to activate these electrolytes and basically help our bodies to incorporate them. They're critical for our mineral and nutrient absorption. Some examples of sour flavors are, say, this rice vinegar, or even like a lemon or a lime. If you're carrying pickles around in your RV, or if you have them in your kitchen, that's a great way to incorporate sour foods into your meals. The next 2 flavors that our bodies perceive, or that our tongues taste, are bitter and astringent. And these can be a little bit difficult to decipher with respect to cravings. But ultimately, bitter and astringent flavors come in vegetables. So all of your leafy greens, ingredients like asparagus and cilantro and even cabbage. Radishes are a pretty special vegetable because when you cook them, they are bitter, but when you eat them raw, they're pungent, which is the 6th and final flavor that your body perceives. And probably one that you crave a whole lot more than others. If you ever crave spicy foods or just something that's got a little pop, you're craving a pungent flavor. And of course, we all know where those pungent flavors come from. They come from things like hot sauce and pepper. Most spices are pungent, but also onions and garlic and even like chili peppers are pungent. Ginger, which is an ingredient that I use a lot in my kitchen, is also pungent, and we'll play with it a little bit later in the course. Together, these are the 6 flavors that we taste. It's important to create a sound meal that we incorporate as many of them as possible. And you'll see that we do that later in the course in the recipes that we share. We've loaded your toolbox with all the things that you need to cook in your RV on the road. Next, we're going to go to camp and play outside, cook beautiful food, and go on an adventure.